All right, now we're going to do the fun part of actually weaving our game board. Some things I want you to keep in mind. This felt can easily stretch. And when it stretches, you get what I'm starting to get here, which is where my edges, do you see how they kind of curve out on the edge and it's like wider in the middle than it is out here? That's because I kind of stretched mine too hard. So you need to make sure that you're really gentle with this thing. Some other things you need to do is you need to make sure that you're lining everything up, and as we go, you're kind of pushing everything together and making sure it's fitting right. Okay, take your first piece. This is our warp piece. It's the part that we're going to weave through onto, and I want you to make sure it's onto the blank side, not the side where you drew all your lines. That does not look good. Go on this side. And I want you to take one of your weft pieces. These are the pieces that I cut. Now mine look a little bit jaggedy, but I think as I put the whole thing together, I'm not even going to notice. Please do not stretch this. It will end up looking really, really bad. So be careful with it. All right, I'm going to take this and I'm going to go to the bottom of my piece. And what we're going to do is an over, under, over, under, over, under motion. So I'm going to pick up this piece of my warp and go underneath it. I'm going to skip this. I'm going to go over that. I'm going to go under. I'm going to go over. I'm going to go under, over, under, and over. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to pull it a little bit so I have two little tails on the end. Now what I need to do is I need to push this down towards the bottom of my warp. Down there, kind of the bottom of that loom you got. So it lines nice and tidy. Let's do our next one. Now this one has to be the opposite of what I did before. So this last one, I started with going under, so now I'm going to go over. So I'm going to go over this piece, and I'm going to pick this one up and go underneath it. Go over the next one, and go underneath this one. If I ever don't remember what to do, look at what I did before. So this one I went over, so now I have to go under. Over here, I went under, so this one I had to go over. Now, every once in a while, sometimes kids accidentally go over or under two at a time. Do you see how that doesn't look right? It doesn't line up the way that these ones did. So if you make a mistake, that's fine, but just leaving it is not. You got to go back and you got to fix it. I like to do this nice and slow because it gives me the time to check that I'm actually right. And now I pull down. And I scooch, scooch, scooch. I'm going to hold this with one hand and kind of scooch it down bit by bit until it starts to line up. That looks pretty good. Now we're starting to get a pattern. So it's starting to repeat. I'm going to scooch it back down. I'm going to take my next piece. As I'm grabbing these pieces, I'm also checking that's not the part with the little black marks. Check that's the other side. All right, this one I went over, so now I got to go under, over, under, over, under. So I start to get a checkerboard pattern. And I pull through, get a tail on either side, and I start to pull down. Now I pause and I check, is it actually correct? Did I get the right pattern? Does it go over, under, over, under, and so on and so forth. All right, I'm going to show you one that doesn't look right so you can see. Do you see how this piece does not have the same pattern as before? It looks wonky, right? Over here I can tell I accidentally did two. So I'm going to try it again. Oops. This one, I accidentally did the same thing as before. Do you see how it matches up with the one before and it doesn't create that checkerboard pattern? So I'm going to try again. So before I went under, so now I have to go over. That was a genuine mistake I had. That wasn't even trying to show you how I could make a mistake. I accidentally did the wrong thing. So if I can accidentally do the wrong thing, so can you. But you got to fix it. Go ahead and do that all the way through until you get to the end. and you can't fit anymore, or you've used all your pieces. Remember as you go to keep pushing down. Oops, I accidentally did the same thing I did before, so now I gotta take it out and try again. Also remember to not be pulling your felt, because the more we pull it, the more it stretches, so just be gentle with it. Push down, get nice and snug. Okay, I'm at my last piece, and I'm noticing it's probably going to have some trouble fitting. So now what I need to do is I need to take every piece that I've used so far, and I need to pull it down as far as it can go, and get them as close together as I possibly can. All your pieces should be able to fit because we cut it so it had some extra wiggle room. So scooch everything as close together as you can. As I'm doing this, do you see I'm holding the top as I scooch down with my right hand? So one hand holds, one scooches. And I pull the ends to tighten it back up. That already has so much more room. All right, last one. This one takes a little bit more wiggling. All right, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to do my last final adjustments. I'm going to scooch things around until it feels nice like it fits. Maybe pull some of them back apart when they're too close. I'm taking my top one, I'm going to scooch it all the way to the top. And then fill my blanks with my pieces. They can kind of move apart a bit. That looks pretty good. Now, later on, we're going to attach these bits to the board, the little hanging off pieces, and eventually cut them. But don't do that yet. Just make sure you have everything aligned and check that it all looks right.